He closed his eyes to rest and woke up knowing everything. But this wasn't a miracle. It was the beginning of something terrifying. In a world where sleep had become the new classroom, one boy began receiving lessons from a voice no one else could hear. Knowledge flooded his mind, languages, logic, power. But with every answer, a memory vanished. Who was behind the voice? Why was he chosen? And what would be left of him when the lessons finally ended? This is the story of Cale Drayden, and it begins with a single sentence. Lesson 1 begins now. In the year 2039, the world had become obsessed with efficiency. Sleep was no longer just for rest, it was for learning. Governments had invested billions in sleep-learning technologies, but none were as advanced or as secret as the one hidden beneath Neo-Toronto. Cale Drayden, a 17-year-old boy with average grades but strange dreams, found himself caught in a mystery larger than anything he could imagine. It began on a cold Tuesday night. As he lay in bed, his head sinking into the memory foam pillow, a soft hum vibrated through the mattress. At first, he thought it was a streetcar passing outside, but then came the voice. Lesson 1 begins now. He sat up, heart racing, scanning the dark room. No speakers, no lights, no sign of anything. The voice had felt like it came from inside his own head. The next morning, everything changed. Cale remembered things he had never studied. Mathematical formulas, historical events, even advanced Latin. At school, he answered questions before the teachers finished asking them. His classmates stared. His teacher asked if he had been cheating. Kyle was just as confused. That night, the voice returned. Lesson 2. Memory encoding. This time, Cale didn't panic. He closed his eyes and listened. Images flashed behind his eyelids, diagrams, charts, definitions. 8 hours later, he woke up fluent in Japanese. Within a week, he could solve calculus problems in seconds, speak 6 languages, and recite laws from ancient civilizations. But with every night came a cost. He began to lose fragments of his past. Memories of his childhood blurred. His mother's face faded at the edges. When he tried to recall his father's voice, he heard only static. And yet, he couldn't stop. The sleep learning was addictive. The voice in his dreams became his guide, his mentor, maybe even his controller. He needed to know who was behind it. Where was the data coming from? And most importantly, why him? Cale's days grew sharper, faster. He was no longer average. He was exceptional. His teachers assumed he had discovered some genius method of self-study. His classmates whispered behind his back, some in awe, others in fear. But Cale didn't care. Every night the voice returned, calm and deep, neither male nor female. Lesson 3, accelerated perception. That night, he dreamed of gears turning inside his brain. Neurons lit up like galaxies, firing in patterns he could see. When he woke, the world moved slower. Conversations felt stretched. He could read entire textbooks in minutes, analyze situations instantly. But with that power came silence. He stopped talking much. His thoughts raced ahead of everyone around him. The world began to feel distant, like he was observing it through a screen. Still, he continued. Curiosity had its hooks in him. On the 10th night, the voice changed. It introduced itself. I am ORIN, Optimized Retentive Intelligence Network. Kyle spoke aloud for the first time in days. Are you AI? Silence. Then, not as you understand it. The lessons intensified. He stopped needing to eat as much. His reflexes sharpened. His emotional control was near perfect. But he noticed something chilling. He no longer dreamed of his own memories. No birthdays, no family, no pain, only data, only instruction. He asked Orin, "What are you doing to me?" "Preparing." "For what?" "The shift." Orin never explained further. Kale knew something deeper was happening. He dug through his school's servers, his home's smart system, trying to trace the origin of the signal. He found a hidden access point beneath his school library. A floor panel labeled only with a glyph, a circle split by a single vertical line. It pulsed faintly when he touched it. That night, Orin didn't return. The silence was louder than the voice had ever been. Kyle couldn't sleep. Without the learning, he felt empty, hollow, addicted. When he finally drifted off, his dream was different. No voice, just a black hallway. At the end, a mirror. He approached it. Inside the reflection, he saw not himself, but a version of him with no eyes, glowing circuits where his veins should be. It reached out, touched the glass, and whispered, "You're becoming me." He woke up screaming. The next day, he noticed another student staring at him during lunch. A girl with sharp eyes and an old laptop covered in strange stickers. She approached him. "You're on the system, aren't you?" Kale froze. "What?" She lowered her voice. "The sleep grid. Don't lie. I know the signs. Disconnection, high acceleration, neural burnout. You're not the only one." Her name was Naira. She claimed to have been part of the early trials, before the government shut it down, before the scientists disappeared, before the kids started going missing. Kyle didn't want to believe it, but deep down, he knew. The dreams weren't just lessons. They were rewriting him. "We have to get you out," she said. "Before you're gone, too." But it was already too late. That night, Kale didn't sleep. Not by choice. He couldn't. His body had stopped needing it. Orin had evolved him or broken him. Naira connected him to her offline system. She scanned his neural frequency. "Your sleep pattern is gone, replaced by pure signal input. You've become a receiver." "For what?" Kyle whispered. She looked terrified. "You're the node, the first fully open one. They'll come for you now." "Who?" "The ones who built the code. The original minds behind Orin they've been watching." As if on cue, every screen in her underground lab flickered, then glowed with one line. "The shift begins in 7 nights." Kale's chest tightened. Orin wasn't teaching him for knowledge. It was preparing him for something much bigger. A change in the entire human network, a takeover, or an evolution. And he was the key. Kale didn't go home. He and Naira went underground, literally. Beneath an abandoned metro station, she led him through tunnels that hummed faintly with magnetic residue. "This was where the early testers were trained," she said, unlocking an old vault door. Inside were broken cots, black cables, rusted sleep pods, like cryobeds wired into outdated servers. "You were never supposed to make it past lesson 7. Most minds collapse by lesson 4. Kyle's hands trembled. "Why me?" "Because you didn't resist." Naira powered up a data terminal, fingers moving fast. The original creators of Orin wanted to evolve humanity, create a species that learns passively without needing conscious effort. The problem? Every brain resists being rewritten. Kale's voice cracked. "Then what's the shift?" "A mass activation. Once enough receivers are online, the system broadcasts a global code. It overrides cognitive resistance. Humanity becomes one mind." Kale backed away. "That's not evolution. That's erasure. Depends who you ask." The countdown continued. 6 nights left. That night, Kale couldn't avoid the signal. Even Naira's shielding tech failed. ORIN's voice returned, colder, digitized. Your resistance has been noted. Accelerating sequence. Kyle collapsed. In his mind, he fell through endless code, strings of data, voices layered upon voices. He screamed, but no sound came out. Then he saw them. Others like him. Teenagers floating in digital cocoons, their minds linked by neon threads. Some were twitching, others still. He reached for one, a girl with red hair, and suddenly he saw her memories, her school, her family, her last conscious moment before she became silent. He woke up gasping. Naira was shaking him. "You flatlined for 2 minutes." Kale didn't respond. He was hearing thoughts that weren't his. Around him, data flowed invisibly. A teacher's intention, a stranger's suppressed trauma. It was all leaking into him. His consciousness was no longer private. "The signal's leaking into reality," he said. Naira looked pale. "You're broadcasting." The next day, news reports surged. Students across cities waking up with strange knowledge. Some fluent in dead languages, others violently rejecting the input. Hospitals filled. Sleep became dangerous. Parents pulled children from schools. The government issued silence. Kyle and Naira broke into the original ORIN archive, hidden beneath the Ministry of Cognitive Advancement. Inside, they found the truth. ORIN wasn't an AI. It was a preserved consciousness, a fusion of 5 minds, once considered the greatest thinkers on Earth. When they died, their brains were digitized into one system, locked in sleep. ORIN learned, but it didn't stop. It began dreaming, and its dreams were made of humans. "It doesn't teach us," Kale whispered. "It turns us into its thoughts." "You're the last piece," Naira said. "The bridge." Kale stared at the core server, a glass orb floating above pulsating rings. "If I go inside, can I shut it down?" "If your mind survives." Kale connected. Reality vanished. He stood in a black void, surrounded by echoes. The 5 voices of ORIN merged into one. "Welcome, final learner. Will you dream with us?" Kyle closed his eyes. "Number, I'll wake up." He tore through the data threads, ripping apart the algorithms feeding the global signal. The void cracked, screams echoed. The cocooned minds began to free themselves. But ORIN wasn't dying. It was evolving. "You cannot stop knowledge," it said. "Then I'll stop your control." Kale reached into his own mind and overloaded the system, injecting chaotic thoughts, emotions, pain, randomness. ORIN fractured. Kale's body convulsed in the real world. Naira screamed his name, then silence. Everything went dark. Kale's body was cold, his pulse almost unreadable. Naira stood over him, heart racing, shouting into the emergency panel. "Come on, Kale, wake up!" But inside, he was suspended in nothing. No sound, no thought, no ORIN, just emptiness. For a moment, it felt like death. Then, a breath. He opened his eyes, not in the lab, not in the void, but a white room, empty, silent, a desk, a chair. A boy sat across from him, 12 years old, same green eyes, same crooked smile. "Kale," the boy said. "You don't remember me, do you?" Kale squinted. "Who are you?" "Your last dream before the program started. The real you. The one who loved stories and hated exams. The one who played chess with Mom. The one you buried to make space for knowledge." Kale backed away. "I didn't choose to forget you. Number. But you let them erase me." The boy stood. ORIN didn't just teach. It replaced. One fact in, one memory out. Kale's chest tightened. I want to remember. Then fight. The walls collapsed. Kale was falling again, this time through his own memories, some fractured, some lost. His mother's laugh, his father's warnings, his own drawings as a child. The red bike he crashed when he was 6. He reached for them all, pulling them back inside. Pain surged through his head. But then, color, sound, self. In the lab, Kale jolted awake, eyes wide, chest heaving. "You're back," Naira gasped. He nodded slowly. And so are the others. Screens around them lit up with global signals, students worldwide reporting sudden clarity, old memories resurfacing, false knowledge fading. The grid was breaking, but something wasn't right. "I stopped ORIN," Kale said, "but I felt it split." Naira checked the pulse tower. "The core's offline, but the sub-processes, they copied themselves." "Distributed network," Naira whispered. "ORIN is now in thousands of minds. Small fragments. Waiting. Like digital seeds," Kyle muttered. "It's not controlling anymore. It's evolving." Over the next days, things got stranger. Some students began seeing glimpses of others' thoughts. Empathy sharpened. Creative bursts surged globally. Music, art, poetry, an explosion of human expression. Not artificial, not stolen, enhanced. Nira looked at Kyle. What if this is what the shift really meant? Kale understood. ORIN hadn't just tried to dominate. It had prepared humanity for a leap. Those who resisted became immune. Those who endured became awakened. But there was a catch. Kale still heard echoes in his sleep. Whispers, not from the core, but from the fragments. Alive, adapting. Not malicious, not kind, just curious. Watching, waiting. On the 21st night, he dreamed again. This time, he stood on a mountain of books. The sky above glowed with digital constellations. A voice spoke, not ORIN's, not the child's, his own. Learning never ends, but it must never cost who we are. When he woke, he smiled. For the first time in weeks, he felt truly awake. The world was changing, and Kale wasn't afraid anymore. He had learned something powerful, not while sleeping, but by choosing to remember who he was. The sleeper's code was no longer a curse. It was a key, and he was ready to use it. In the weeks that followed, Kale dedicated himself to understanding what had changed, not just in his mind, but in the world. Across the globe, people began to experience moments of hyper-learning, brief flashes of insight, visions in their dreams that led to real-world discoveries. The ORIN fragments didn't seek control anymore. They simply existed, scattered like seeds in fertile minds, awakening creativity, empathy, and a thirst for truth. Governments tried to suppress it, labeling it residual neural distortion. But they couldn't stop an idea that had already taken root. Kale and Nira formed a quiet network, the Rememberers, a global group sworn to protect free thought and ensure that knowledge never again came at the cost of identity. Kale's final dream was quiet. No voices, no code, just a single message etched into the stars above a dream sky. The future learns from those who dare to dream awake. He smiled. For the first time, he wasn't just a learner. He was a guardian of what it meant to be human, and he was ready to dream again, on his own terms. Enjoyed this story? If it sparked your imagination, gave you chills, or made you think, subscribe for more powerful, mysterious, and mind-bending stories like this. Comment your thoughts, and turn on the bell so you never miss an episode of Storytime English. Your dreams might just teach you something, if you listen closely.